From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Melinda Akilami.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, ahead of the start of actual political campaign, political activities gather pace. Supporters of presidential candidates of the Labour Party, All Progressives Congress and People's Democratic Parties drum up support for their principles. Troops fighting insurgency in Kaduna State say they have killed scores of terrorists in Jukun local government areas as 13 people are reported killed in an attack on a community in Taraba State. The Nigeria Labour Congress writes the president asking for a 50% salary review for civil servants owing to rising cost of goods and services in the country. And the man suspected of stabbing renowned writer Salman Rushdie at an event in the United States yesterday has been remanded in custody without bail after being charged with attempted murder.
And on business news tonight, NNPC launches application platform to monitor crude oil theft and pipeline vandalism in the country.
On sports news tonight, Tyson Fury vacates Ring magazine heavyweight title after confirming his retirement from boxing.
Supporters of various political parties have continued to woo other Nigerians to join their ranks ahead of the 2023 general elections. Today, various groups made their presence felt in Cross River, Imo, Niger, Nasarawa states, and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. We kick off with the Labour Party. The presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, restates his belief that the present economic challenges faced by Nigerians is as a result of cumulative effect of leadership's failure. Speaking in Owerri, the Imo State capital, during a youth and leadership summit, Mr. Obi says the 2023 general elections offers Nigerians the opportunity to turn things around. While some youths in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, also staged what they describe as a fitness walk for the Labour Party presidential candidate and his running mate to canvass support for their presidential bid.
Still in the atmosphere of the International Youth Day celebration, young persons from the 27 local government areas of Imo State and beyond converged in this hall for a youth and leadership summit. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 election, Mr. Peter Obi, the convener of the Center for Values and Leadership, and a political economist, Professor Patu Tomi, as well as a notable leadership coach, Linus Okoria, were present at the event. Professor Otomi shares his thoughts with the young persons on some of the qualities those aspiring to leadership position must possess.
So the time has come to take Nigeria away from those who do not understand the meaning of leadership. Leadership is something that involves essentially 3 sets of behavior activity. Activity 1 is preparation. If you are not prepared, you cannot give what you do not have.
For the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, the current economic challenges the nation is grappling with is a result of leadership failure, adding that the year 2023 offers us the opportunity to change the narrative.
I'm asking you, do not vote Peter Obi because he's an Igbo man. Is that the way he was vibrant cheaper? No. Do not vote everybody because he's from the north. Is that vibrant cheaper in the north? No. Is that anyone from Oregon the electricity? No. Have any of you gone to go buy bread and say, I'm a Christian, it's cheaper? No. Because the first one, and this is the one, don't come and go back. But you know why we're not playing? Because the man is qualified to be a driver.
A renowned leadership coach, Linus Okorie, advises the youth to get more involved in the political process leading to the 2023 general elections.
The time has come where every Nigerian young people will say, you know what, I need to vote right. I need to vote beyond stomach infrastructure. I need to disappoint people who think that stomach infrastructure is what has been used over the time to distract young people.
In Cross River State, young people from across the state took to the streets of Calabar, the state capital, in a solidarity fitness walk for the flag bearers of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, and his running mate, Yusuf Baba Ahmed. They say they are confident that Mr. Obi has what it takes to lead the country out of its present challenges.
We can see that the country is not moving on the way it's supposed to be. We cannot be called Nigerians while we depend on consumption. We have to make sure that we are a production nation. And the only man that can do it is Peter Obi.
With political activities revving up slowly but surely, the Leadership and Youth Summit in Imo State, as well as the fitness walk by the young people in Cross River State, are pointers to the fact that supporters of the Labour Party are not leaving anything to chance in their preparations for the 2023 elections.
Similarly, more groups are mobilizing support for the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. At separate events in Niger and Nasarawa State, some support groups gathered to lend their voices to clamor for the issue-based campaigns as against ethnic or religious sentiments.
Members of the Northern Youth Professionals for Tinubu are commissioning this facility as part of their contributions to actualize the aspirations of the presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress. For the group, the age of the APC presidential candidates is not a problem. Rather, they see it as an advantage for the nation.
Canvas support for our principal Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima, as well as our candidate in Niger State, Honorable Umar Bagu. We want quality leaders that have the capacity to turn things around. If we don't bring in professionals into politics, we'll continue to have people that might not do well, both at the federal, the state, and the local government. So that's why we're calling on professionals to be getting involved in politics. This is what informed our decision to form this organization.
At a separate event in Nasarawa State, another support group is mobilizing support for the presidential candidates of the APC. Ahead of the campaigns, the group urges politicians to adopt issue-based campaign strategies.
As you are seeing here, there is support groups here, about almost 18 support groups that volunteer without penny to call for a solidarity rally because the campaign time is not yet now. So they call to show their support for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We are winning 100%, and I'm advising the other opposition that they should not even waste their money, because you can see from example, those are the people that I did not even come here with even 10 naira, and they can, most of them here, pay for their transport, pay for their feedings, and even sponsor. Some of them, you can see they were sharing waters just to support Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima.
As the various campaign teams take shape with recent appointments, the groups are hoping that these exercises will yield the necessary votes for the party to emerge victorious in the 2023 general elections. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the spokesperson of the 2023 presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Dino Melaye, is blaming Nigeria's current security and economic challenges on what he terms the poor electoral decisions made in 2015 and 2019. The former lawmaker, who was a guest speaker at an event organized by a pro-PDP group in Abuja aimed at enlightening the electorate against vote buying, asked the citizens to vote right in the next general elections. Both the former governor of Niger State, Mr. Babangida Aliyu, and Senator Shehu Sani, who were also at the event, called on members of the party to be united ahead of the 2023 polls.
Distinguished Senator Dino Melaye, one of our speakers.
The spokesperson of the PDP 2023 presidential candidate, Senator Dino Melaye, is among the party chieftains attending this summit to sensitize electorates on the need to vote right in the forthcoming general elections. The event, which is put together by a pro-PDP group, intends to raise the consciousness of the electorate against the disadvantages of vote buying.
Your PVC is your voice. Your PVC is your right. What I tell you, your right becomes your right when you do the right thing. Your right becomes your right when you vote the right candidate.
All participating political parties in the 2023 presidential election are gathering momentum ahead of next month when campaigns will officially commence. However, ahead of the campaigns and the subsequent election next year, the spokesperson for the PDP presidential candidate asks the electorate to vote right, as previous decisions have not yielded the needed results.
The problem/challenges that we Nigerians are facing today is just because we did not do it right. Therefore, results cannot be right. We don't even need a soothsayer to tell us today that Nigeria is suffering. It is suffering from economical malnutrition, security malfunctioning, and social instability.
The chief servants.
The PDP seems aware of what lies ahead if it wants to reclaim power in 2023.
We lost Ekiti because of internal wrangling and those who sell whatever to make money. Otherwise, even Ekiti, we should have won it. People are waiting for PDP, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Internal wranglings within the party. If you contest an election in primaries you lost, support those who won.
Many Nigerians look forward to the 2023 general elections with high expectations, considering the results from some of the recently concluded elections and with the rise in campaigns against electoral vices such as vote buying. Many are optimistic that the forthcoming elections will be better than all previous ones.
The executive governor of Bayelsa State.
To other stories now. Ahead of the forthcoming annual general conference of the Nigerian Bar Association, crisis appears to be looming amongst the leadership, and this follows a mail sent out in the early hours of today by the General Secretary of the Association, Mrs. Joyce Odua, asking members to disregard notices on the annual general meeting earlier sent by her and the Assistant General Secretary, Uche Wadialo. The meeting, scheduled to hold during the NBA Annual General Conference, is the last under the administration of the current president, Olumide Akpata. Hours after the mail was sent out to NBA members, the NBA president issued a disclaimer to the effect that the notice of withdrawal sent out by Mrs. Odua was done without any approval and consultation with the National Bar leadership. He maintained that the earlier notices of the amended letter sent out by both the General Secretary and the Assistant General Secretary remain valid until a decision is reached at the NBA Annual General Meeting. In part two, after the break, Benue's state government demolishes house said to be used as kidnappers' hideout and transit home, warns residents against harboring criminals. That's in a moment. Join us again. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Ahead of the start of actual campaigns, political activities gather pace. Supporters of presidential candidates of the Labour Party, All Progressives Congress and People's Democratic Parties drum up support for their principles. Troops fighting insurgency in Kaduna State say they have killed scores of terrorists in Jukun local government areas as 13 people are reported killed in an attack on a community in Taraba State. The Nigeria Labour Congress writes the president asking for a 50% salary review for civil servants owing to rising cost of goods and services in the country. And the man suspected of stabbing renowned author Salman Rushdie at an event in the United States yesterday has been remanded in custody without bail after being charged with attempted murder. Troops of Operation Sanity say they have killed scores of terrorists during a clearance operation in Jukun local government area of Kaduna State. In a statement, the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan, explains that the terrorists were neutralized by ground troops in Galbi. According to Mr. Aruwan, during their advance across River Kaduna, the troops ran into stiff resistance from the insurgents, and after a fierce firefight, scores of the terrorists were neutralized. 2 general-purpose machine guns, 3 AK-47 rifles, and 7 motorcycles were recovered from the terrorists. Meanwhile, 13 persons have been reported killed in Karekura village of Gaskol local government area of Taraba State, following an attack by bandits on the said community yesterday evening. It was gathered that no fewer than 6 neighborhood watch local vigilantes lost their lives in the process. However, some of the vigilantes were also said to have succeeded in killing 6 bandits while repelling the attack. The Deputy Chairman of Karu local government area of Nasarawa State, Mr. Lawal Kashi, says the recent curfew imposed on the local government between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. will continue indefinitely until the security situation in the area improves. Karu town, which borders the Federal Capital Territory, has had some security challenges recently that led to a face-off between the police and suspected criminals. Speaking at a rally of support groups for the APC presidential candidate, Mr. Kashi explains that intelligence gathered was that bandits had infiltrated the local government area.
We want to curtail the criminal and criminality in the local government. The crime perpetrating within the local government is becoming unbearable. It has come to our notice that bandits from far and near are intruding into Karu local government. So in restricting the movement within the local government will curtail the influx of these bandits and reduce the criminality in the local government to the minimal level. And if movement are restricted, who else is going to go about perpetrating criminality within the council? If you are caught, blame nobody but yourself. We are doing it for complete 1 week non-stop. Then we'll go back to Graham board, looking at the compliance within the council. If it is perfect, it is more than 80%, then we design another movement, but it's going to be continuous.
The police in Kwara State say that calm has been restored to the Ajashe market, which was yesterday rocked by violence that resulted in the death of 4 people. However, residents told Channels Television that 6 people died, 17 were injured, and 7 others were said to have been missing after a clash between members of the Odua People's Congress, OPC, and cattle sellers at the market. The crisis reportedly erupted after a side mirror of one of the vehicles belonging to the OPC members was allegedly broken at the market while they were returning from the just concluded Osun Osogbo festival. The Benue state government has demolished a property allegedly belonging to a former chief judge of the state being used by kidnappers. The demolition exercise follows the arrest of 2 out of the 4 suspects in a failed kidnap attempt that was foiled by the Benue Police Elite Squad of Operation Azenda Rapid Response Team, led by the Chief Superintendent of Police in Makurdi, the state capital. According to the state government, kidnappers use the property as their hideout to keep their victims until a ransom is negotiated before they are released from the location between Makurdi and Boko Road.
This is not a structurally defective building being pulled down. This is in fact a building in use for residential purposes along the Makurdi-Boko Road. It is being pulled down under the supervision of security officials after investigations revealed that it has become a hideout and transit home where kidnappers hold their victims hostage. The property is purportedly owned by a former chief judge of the state, but occupied by 4 tenants who allegedly turned out to be members of a kidnap syndicate.
Our special crime unit busted their activities. 2 of them were arrested, and 2 others, including the kingpin, are on the run. But hopefully we'll get them very soon. As you all know, the state has zero tolerance for kidnapping activities. And we have a law in place which provides that whoever allows his or her property to be used by kidnappers as a den, we have that building demolished.
The Commissioner of Police says an elite squad of Operation Zenda Rapid Response Team, led by CSP Justin Berindie, led the operation that tracked and uncovered the criminal activities of these suspects.
Those are the people that have been giving us problems. They have done almost 3-4 operations successfully, and they collected the ransom. And that is why they are here.
One of the suspects confesses to the crime and narrates how they got ransom from a victim's family.
Our first person was the wife of Ibrahim, Ano, and he paid us 500,000 naira. And the second person, although I've forgotten her name, he gave us 1 million naira. But the third operation, we couldn't succeed.
Part of his claims is, however, contested, as the family claims they paid way more than that amount he had declared.
They asked me for 25 million naira. When I complained, they say that I'm a businessman, that they have known me for a number of years. They know what I was and what I wear, and today what I am. So at the end of the day, I gave them 3 million naira with a bag. So they collected and released my wife.
Now, due to their nefarious activities, the entire house must come down, including the perimeter fence, to serve as a reminder to property owners not to allow unknown occupants into their space.
The Minister of Transportation, Muazu Sambo, says that arrangements have been concluded to put in place a technology-driven system that will secure the rail line across the country. He also expressed confidence that other kidnapped passengers of the March 28th Abuja-Kaduna train attack may regain their freedom soon. He spoke with journalists during his tour of the Nigerian railway facilities in Lagos.
I think it will be inhuman of the Nigerian Railway Corporation to resume rail services when we are still battling to get some of the victims, all the victims, returned, reunited with their families. Now, while that process is ongoing, we are also looking at the best world standard security system to put in place to ensure that forever such a thing will never happen again. So the two are going at the same time. My hope is that by the time I get back to Abuja, perhaps we'll have a tea party welcoming the remaining victims.
In the Niger Delta, the fight against insecurity and criminality may have received a boost following a week-long Officers Combat Proficiency competition at the Nigerian Army 6th Division's headquarters in River State capital Port Harcourt. The General Officer commanding 6th Division, Major General Olufemi Oluyede, said the exercise will ensure synergy amongst the participants in the fight against terrorism, kidnapping and banditry.
Officers participating in the tourney include those of the rank of Major and below from the 2 Brigade Akwa Ibom, 16 Brigade Yenagoa, 63 Brigade Asaba, and the 6th Division Garrison. The competition is designed to test the officers' proficiency in areas such as map reading, combat race, shooting, combat swimming, and obstacle course crossing. Also in attendance were members of other sister security agencies such as the commander of the Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder, the Corps Commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps, the Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC.
You see, the essence of training.
Speaking at the end of the competition, the General Officer commanding 6th Division, Major General Olufemi Oluyede, charged the officers to transfer all they have learned to the soldiers under their command.
Having gone through this competition as officers, you must take pride in the strategic position you occupy in your respective commands. You must also ensure that you teach the younger ones and soldiers under your command the basic regimental and physical fitness activities that will enhance their professional qualities as officers and soldiers.
Speaking further, the GOC expressed optimism that this would better help them actualize the vision the Chief of Army Staff has for the Nigerian Army.
It is important to note that this competition is one amongst a series organized by the division to improve your physical fitness, endurance, and training. It is hoped that this will enable you to put into perspective the vision of the Chief of Army Staff, our dear Chief of Army Staff, which is, I quote, to have the professional Nigerian Army ready to accomplish assigned mission within a joint environment in the defense of our dear nation, Nigeria, unquote.
Some highlights of the event include the crossing of the obstacle course and presentation of trophies to victorious officers and competing brigades.
The leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, has written to the President demanding an upward review of salaries of civil servants by 50% owing to current realities regarding the value of the Naira and rising cost of goods and services in the country. In a statement, the NLC explained that the demand is in response to the labor leaders to the economic prescriptions offered by the state governors. They also fault the federal government's Treasury Single Account, TSA, and the Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System, IPIS, maintaining that the two platforms, which the government introduced to curb financial corruption, have been compromised. Part of the reasons they say the economy is in bad shape. The unions are also calling on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to investigate every allegation raised against the Central Bank of Nigeria. Pensioners in Ekiti State are asking the state governor-elect, Mr. Biodun Oyebanji, to act graciously over the 40 billion naira unpaid gratuities when he finally takes office. The pensioners who hosted him during an appreciation visit say the union believes the outgoing administration has not fully met their demands as promised.
The outgoing government has not been consistent. We were given last in January for state pensioners and March for local government 100 million. Whereas we, according to the plan then, that the government will be giving us 100 million every month. But this has not been so. Throughout this year now, we have only gotten one for local government and one for state. And with that huge sum of money, it will take more than 50 years. Even if the government is consistent, paying 100 million every month to pay up the debt. And remember that these people are old people. We are old people. Before you can retire, you'll be about 60 years of age. And if you add 60 years of age, so 50 years, that's 110 years. How many of us will want to, we are sure that they will be alive in 110 years' time? So that is why we are clamoring that government should pay us on time. We are not begging, it's a right. Payment of gratuity is a right. expressed in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So that's one of our reasons. The other one is that our check-off dues, monthly check-off dues, taken from our pensions, the outgoing government has not paid us since February. We were paid last in January. So it means February, March, April, May, June, July. Nothing.
In his response, Mr. Oyebanji said the issue at hand will be resolved in an all-inclusive approach.
They've laid bare their requests before us, and like I told them, we are going to sit down together and agree on how we are going to tackle those issues. One thing I can tell you is that the outgoing government has a tradition of putting workers' welfare in the front burner, and we are going to deepen that and continue in that trajectory. So all the outstanding issues, we sit down together, we discuss it, collectively arrive at solutions, and those solutions will be implemented.
The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has announced that the state leather hub will be delivered before the end of the year. Governor Sanwo-Olu made this comment when he visited the construction site at Mushin, assuring residents that the project will be ready by December. He also took time to inspect the progress of the automobile facility in Ogba area, a joint venture agreement with CIG Motors Company Limited for the establishment of a vehicle assembly plant.
This is Wemco Road in Ogba, Lagos. A vehicle assembly plant put together by the Lagos State Government in partnership with CIG Motors is nearing its completion stage. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is here to inspect the facility, and he is pleased with the progress of work.
Equipment have started coming in, and you've seen that the place have been well prepared to receive the production, of vehicles. First to be SKD before they move to CKD, and you can see the entire lines are coming up very, very well. We're hoping that part of their first plan is to have a production that can do up to 5,000 vehicles, right? At the first instance, then now take it up to 10,000, right? And we're happy with the level of work. We want to have an assembly line, and we want to have an opportunity where we can train, and employ our own citizens for a production line like that.
Then he proceeds to the State Industrial Leather Hub located in Maturi, Mushin area, where he was received by a large crowd. The state government commenced the construction of the leather hub in September last year to offer training opportunity for the youth to learn skills and also to earn a living in the value chain of leather production.
The factory that we have behind, more like training ground. Up on this floor, on the second floor, they have plans to be able to take about 100 students at once, where each one of them will have a small machine where they can learn from, and thereafter they can go into the hub and the factory itself if they have orders, and people that are into leather manufacturing already, they don't need to travel out of the country to make, all of their leather finished products. I'm told that we're at about 60-65% level of completion. The contractor has committed to a December deadline.
The Lagos State Government says the completion of the automobile facility and the leather hub will create direct and indirect jobs for small and medium enterprises in the ecosystem.
To health matters now, the Kaduna State Government has flagged off Scales 3.0 COVID-19 campaign targeting 70% of the population of the state for vaccination. During a briefing on the campaign at the Kaduna State Government House, the Deputy Governor, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe, explained that the move is an indication of how government is scaling up the drive to get all residents of the state vaccinated.
Globally, there are many factors that affect the demand for the uptake of COVID-19 vaccines. These factors, which are not alien to Nigeria alone, require continuous review of strategies for promoting demand and ensuring vaccine acceptability and provider accountability. The Kaduna State government has launched the Scales 3.0 strategy for COVID-19 vaccination, an initiative of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency adopted by the state. So far, the vaccination has recorded 54% coverage, while the state government is targeting vaccinations of over 75% of eligible residents in the first phase.
We seem to be higher than 54% actually, but because of disparities in records, they're recording as 54, which we're working to correct. We have about 61% of all Kaduna's eligible citizens, that is 18 and above, have received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccination.
According to the Kaduna State Deputy Governor, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe, the COVID-19 3.0 campaign is a strategy designed for implementation within a duration of 3 months.
Using mobile special teams to take vaccination to our residents' doorsteps, in addition to integrating it to our facility-based services. It aims to address the identified implementation gaps in Scales 1.0 and 2.0 and bring about more accountability for performance, strengthen electronic data reporting, and promote a more robust data generation.
We can actually track the performance through data down all the way to the teams. We can open a dashboard and see what they are doing. That's one. Number two, there will be a better last mile visibility of the vaccines. We'll know where every dose of vaccine is.
Although the rate of COVID-19 infections seem to have reduced as a result of mass vaccination, especially at the local levels, the state government is encouraging residents to be mindful of the inherent danger which the pandemic portends and the need for them to adhere to all the safety protocols put in place in the early days of the outbreak of the pandemic.
Let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Laddie Williams is standing by with details.
Thanks, Melinda. In business news, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has launched an application platform to curb crude oil theft and pipeline vandalism in the country. The portal, with the address stopcrudetheft.com, has application options for reporting incidences that would prompt follow-up with responses and another one for crude sales documents validation. A statement from the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC Limited, Malamele Kyari, says the actions of vandals of pipelines became difficult to handle, but it engaged partners to ensure that it responded to the situation. In April this year, Mr. Kyari mentioned that Nigeria lost $4 billion to oil theft at the rate of 200,000 barrels per day in 2021, $1.5 billion so far in 2022 due to increased pipeline vandalism, as losing 95% of oil production to oil thieves at Bonny Terminal, River State. And Turkey's defense ministry says 2 more ships with grains left for Ukraine as Black Sea port today, bringing the total number of ships to depart the country under a UN brokered deal to 16. A statement from the country defense ministry says the Barbados flagged Fuma left Ukraine's Kronomos port carrying 12,000 tons to Turkey's southern Iskenderun province. Meanwhile, Ukraine's infrastructure ministry says 16 ships carrying 450,000 tons of agricultural products had departed from its seaports since early August, as the country hopes to increase its maritime exports to over 3 million tons of grain and other agricultural products per month in the near future. And Nigeria's banking sector must evolve with the changing times as technology keeps transforming every sphere. This is a submission of the Managing Director of Sterling Bank PLC, Mr. Abubakar Sulaiman. Speaking at a press conference of the Chartered Institute of Bankers in Lagos, Mr. Sulaiman mentioned that while Nigerian banks remain one of the few in the world to have an online real-time payment service, some gaps remain to be filled.
Even debit cards themselves or credit cards are almost going out of fashion, and people can transact using their biometrics or their smartphone. You can see that the world has completely changed and is therefore left for the industry to change along with it. But beyond the technology that we have now adopted, even the context of what is finance and what should be considered. For instance, we introduced the e-naira into the context last year. That didn't exist at all. There are consequences of that. And the other bigger issues around digital currencies across the world. So the industry must therefore continue to transform itself. But for what it is worth, we know that the Nigerian banking industry is actually one of the most dynamic across the world. We know that when it comes to payment, there are very few countries in the world whose payment systems are comparable to ours. We know that when it comes to growth, very few industries have grown as well as we have grown over the last 15 years. So there are fundamental changes that we have seen in the industry over that period. But there are also gaps, and it's now left for us to come together to try and fix those gaps.
And trading activity at the forex market was mostly positive this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets rose by 24.56% to $772.12 million as of August the 12th. However, a further breakdown of trading results shows that the total value of transactions at the FX spot market fell by 30.88% to $358.26 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market went up by 307% to $413.87 million. Meanwhile, the local currency depreciated by 0.09% to 426 naira 79 kobo against the dollar, the Nigerian autonomous foreign exchange window of the forex market, in contrast to 426 naira 41 kobo recorded last week. And at the unlisted securities market, activities at the NASD OTC exchange ended the second week of July in the green, as both the security index and market capitalization recorded a 0.12% advance. At the same time, the NASD market capitalization increased by 100 million naira to close at 1 trillion naira this week. However, the total value of securities traded during the week decreased by 53.07%, as the market recorded a total of 142.68 million naira in value against 304.04 million naira in the previous week. However, total volume of securities traded on the exchange increased by 6.52% to 1.82 million units, while the deals rose by 46.51% this week. And at the local equities market, investor sentiment ended the second week of August on a negative note as the benchmark index dropped by 2.09%. At the same time, the market's total value depreciated by 570.79 billion naira, largely due to intense sell pressure on industrial giants Dangote and Boa Cement, as well as MTN Nigeria and some Tier 1 banking names. 4 out of the 5 key sectors of the NGX ended in the red, while activity levels were positive, as trading volume and value increased by 114 and 5.4% each week to date. Investor sentiments ended the final trading week of July with a sharp drop, despite the 1.42% gain recorded on Friday, which was largely driven by telco giant MTN Nigeria. Keja Hotel led a pack of 32 gainers with 30.93% increase on its share price. QTix as number 1 among the 25 other losers. Gainers, while the trio of Capital Hotel, FBN Holdings, and Jais Bank and Zenith Bank were major contributors to the 1.5 billion total volume of shares traded this week. And that's business news. It's back to you, Melinda, with the rest of the news.
Many thanks, Ladi. On the international scene, Kenya's electoral body has limited access to the nation's tallying center in order to speed up the process of verifying presidential results. Anyone who is not a party agent, election observer, or part of the media is not allowed to be at the center. The verification of results has been stopped several times after complaints by supporters of the main candidate. Confirmed results show former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has a slight edge over Deputy President William Ruto. With 93 of the 292 constituencies declared, he has 52% of the vote against 47% for Mr. Ruto. In the United States, the police have charged a man suspected of stabbing Salman Rushdie at an event in New York yesterday with attempted murder. The prosecutor says Haid Mata has been remanded in custody without bail after pleading not guilty. Mr. Mata was accused of running onto the stage and attacking Mr. Rushdie and an interviewer at the event held at a local educational center. Mr. Rushdie's agent said he's in critical condition and has been put on a ventilator and unable to speak, adding that he may lose an eye. Appearing in court today, the suspect wore a face mask and prison uniform before entering his plea of not guilty. Mr. Rushdie, 75, has faced years of death threats for his novel The Satanic Verses, which some Muslims consider as blasphemy. One person has died and at least 17 others injured after high winds caused part of the stage to collapse at a festival in Spain. The popular electronic music festival, which was due to continue until Sunday, has now been suspended. Regional emergency services say 3 of the injured suffered serious trauma.
People who were at the music festival in Spain, where one person was killed and many injured by freak winds, spoke of their shock on Saturday.
Pues bueno, a nosotros la verdad que nos pilló en el camping cuando y de repente pues como mucho viento.
We were caught at the campsite. Suddenly there was a lot of wind, very hot air. All the sand started to move. We saw tents flying. Then people started to come from the concerts to the campsite. And according to what they told us, wood from parts of the stage was blown away. It was chaos.
Todas las partes del escenario, maderas.
Regional emergency services say high winds caused part of the main stage to collapse at a dance music festival near the Spanish city of Valencia in the early hours of Saturday. Other infrastructure was also damaged when gusts battered the Medusa Festival, a huge electronic music festival held over 6 days in the east coast town of Kwara, south of Valencia. Of the injured, 3 suffered serious trauma injuries and 14 had more minor injuries. National Weather Agency, AMET, said there had been strong gusts of wind and a sudden rise in temperatures during the night, with gusts of 82 kilometers per hour recorded at Alicante Airport in the Valencia region.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of sports with Victor Matthias.
Thank you, Melinda. Indeed, so much is happening in the world of sports, but let's begin with boxing, where Tyson Fury has vacated his Ring Magazine title after confirming his retirement from the sport. Now, this news comes 24 hours after Fury made an official retirement announcement via his social media accounts, which was also confirmed by WBC President Mauricio Sulaiman. Fury held both the WBC and Ring Magazine heavyweight belts at the time of his retirement, although no announcement has yet been made about the WBC title. The belts will be up for grabs in Anthony Joshua's rematch with Alexander Usyk on August the 20th. In the English Premier League, Aston Villa beat Everton 2-1 in the early kickoff at Villa Park, with Danny Ings and Emiliano Buendia getting on the score sheet for the Lions. The encounter between Brighton and Newcastle ended goalless at the American Express Community Stadium. Elsewhere, Arsenal put up a beautiful display of football artistry to beat Leicester City 4-2 at the Emirates Stadium. In other matches, champions Manchester City produced a near-flawless performance to beat Bournemouth 4-0 at the Etihad. In a keenly contested encounter at the St. Mary's Stadium, Southampton and Leeds settled for a share of the spoils as the game ended 2-2. Wolverhampton Wanderers and Fulham also played out a goalless draw at the Molineux Stadium. In the last game of the day, Brentford hammered Eric Ten Hag's Manchester United 4-0 as the Red Devils suffered their second successive defeat of the season. Now, Super Falcons forward Asisat Oshoala has been nominated for the 2022 Ballon d'Or Women Player of the Year following her impressive season with Barcelona in the Spanish League. Oshoala scored 20 goals in 19 games to help Barcelona win the league title and become the first African player to win the top scorer award in Spain. In July, she was named the African Player of the Year for a record 5th time, adding to her previous wins in 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2019. The Ballon d'Or ceremony will take place on October the 17th in Paris, France. Well, hopefully on that day, she would bring the crown back to Africa. But it is on that note we wrap it up on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you so very much for watching. It's back to Melinda with the wrap of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Victor. Let's hope she will. And just before we go, the Lagos State government has announced a traffic diversion plan for the commencement of repair works on sections which eroded asphalt along the 3rd Mainland Bridge. The repairs would be undertaken by the State Public Works Corporation between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Sunday, August the 14th. A statement signed by the Commissioner for Transportation, Dr. Frederick Oladeinde, said traffic will be diverted from one lane to another at the identified section on the bridge, adding that the rehabilitation was necessary to solve tailbacks along the bridge at peak periods due to the eroded sections. And the main news again. Supporters of presidential candidates of the Labour Party, the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Parties today trooped out in parts of the country to drum up support for their principles ahead of the 2023 presidential contest. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night.